All right, how's it going, everyone? This is Andrew Parnell, also known as Telemokos from Tuesday Night Eternal. Just wanted to go through a quick deck tech with you here, try something a little new. We're going to go through Expedition this time, and going to talk through the Xenan Cultist deck. Xenan Cultist took down the ECQ last weekend by Bruised by Gods version. Pretty good deck here. It's also, some people call it the boogeyman of the format. It's not quite that, I wouldn't say, but it's very popular. It's probably the most popular and the most powerful deck in the format right now. No changes on the horizon, so it's probably going to be the best deck for a little while. So if you're looking to get into Expedition, or if you haven't had a chance to play with this deck, want to go through and show you a bit here. So I'm just going to talk to you briefly, and then hopefully we get a chance to play a couple games. So your unit set. The point of the deck is to be a value deck, so you've got a lot of cheap creatures, cheap units that can sacrifice and to get you advantage and can do a lot of things pretty well. So it's really a toolbox deck that allows you to get a lot of value off of your units, and then get good things from the market, and really have game against a lot of different decks in the format. So going through your creature set, you have Nahid's Faithful. This is a pretty powerful 1-drop. It's a one power 2/1 lifesteal, and when it summons it, you can sacrifice another unit to give it +2/+2 to make it a 4/3 lifesteal. And since a lot of your units get benefits from sacrificing, you're able to make this a 4/3 lifesteal a lot of the time. And then this deck also has a lot of recursion, so you're able to get it back. So if it goes to the yard, you're able to bring it back and get another 4/3 lifesteal, or you can sacrifice again and make it like a 6/5 lifesteal if you want. Your other 1-drop is Slumbering Stone, so an 0/2, and then Entomb, play a 2/2 Gargoyle Flying. So a lot of times you're playing this out, sacrificing it from value, either from Nahid's Faithful or from other sources, to get basically a free 2/2 flyer. Fenrir Nightshade, actually, so I wanted to mention that this deck list here is a take on Sunnyvale's Cultist deck list. It's a little bit different than the tournament winning one, but they're very similar. There's just a lot of little pieces here and there that you can sub in or sub out based on what your meta call is, what you think other decks are running. I think Sunny's is a little more set up to win the mirror, and so that's what I'm going to go through here. But you can see a little bit of changes here from Bruised by God's version. Fenrir's Nightshade this is one of the kind of last inclusions in the deck. A lot of the decks, especially in the mirror, want some sort of card advantage. So this is a 2 of in the deck, but it's a way to basically pay 3 to draw cards. So it's just a card advantage engine. High Profit. This is really powerful, so it's a little bit hard to recognize at first how powerful this card is, but it's a 2-power 0/3 that gives you +1 maximum power, so it helps you ramp a little bit. But then whenever another cultist goes to your void, which happens quite a lot because you're sacrificing units for value, it gets another +1 maximum power. So you get 1 or 2 of these out on the board, you sacrifice a couple units, and all of a sudden you're at 7, 8, 9 power, and you're able to just really go off and start casting the really powerful spells in your deck. Tillier's Favored. Some decks run this, some decks don't. Some decks run Vara's Favor in this spot, but it's basically just a cheap 2-power way to help fix your power and ramp you a little bit. Smuggler, of course, most two faction decks are going to run the Smugglers. 2/2 Ambush. It's going to get some really good things from the market, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. 1 of Scorpion Wasp in the main. Some run this in the market. Just really powerful deck for those decks that for somehow can avoid your removal. Either they have Aegis or they have some other way to get around it. Just a really, really nice card to be able to just take those out. So either grab it from the market, or in this case, you have it in the main. Shadowlands Guide. This is a pretty key one. So this is a 3/1, but when you can play it, when summons, you play a unit 1 cost from your void. So that is Nahid's Faithful, which we talked about. If this ever dies, you can trigger it again, or sacrifice Slumbering Stone, get a 2/2, then get the Slumbering Stone back and do it again. Just allows you a ton of recursion in the deck. And then your last unit is Incarnus. This card is just an absolute house. Every Shadow deck and Expedition should be running this card. It's just unbelievable. So it's a 3/3, and on summon you invoke, so you get a card out of it regardless. It's also a 3/3 unblockable that threatens to invoke again if it gets to Mastery 9. So it's basically a must-answer threat from their premium side, premium removal, and then if you actually do, even if they do answer it, you still got the nice card off of it. So really powerful card, one of the best cards in the deck. Probably the second best card in the deck here, or maybe even the best, is Xenan Temple. So this one is also incredibly powerful, even though it doesn't necessarily look like it on the surface. Can protect itself with giving one of your units killer. One nice interaction too is that because of the recursion, your units keep killer when they go to the void. So if, for example, you put it on a Nahid's Faithful, then you kill it, you put killer on it, and then it attacks something, goes to the void, then you get it back with Shadowlands Guide or something else, it gets killer again. So you're able to do that. Scare, swap units. That's probably the least used one, but you can kill an 0-4 if you want to. And then Xenan Augury just allowing you to, pretty important in the mirror, able to draw another threat or an answer to protect Xenan Temple as well. And then probably the biggest part of Xenan Temple is the ultimate is just insane. World Joiner is just an absolute house. They have to kill it. If it gets one attack in, it's done its job, and it's a really, really hard to answer threat. A lot of times in the mirror match, what you're really trying to do is just stick a Xenan Temple, ultimate it, get out a World Joiner, and if they don't have an answer that turn, the game's basically over. So 4 of Xenan Temple, really important part of the deck, and this is where the ramp comes in too. If you can get this out early, or even just get it on curve on turn 5, it's really, really hard for any deck to deal with it. Then your removal suite, so you have Worthy Cause, which is one of the more busted cards in the deck as well. Sacrifice a unit to silence an enemy and give it -1/-1 for each unit in your void. So it's a fast spell, 1 power, really efficient. You can cast it, at any turn basically, and a lot of your units don't mind going to the void. Nahid's Faithful can come back, Slumbering Stone gets you 2/2 and can come back from the Shadowlands Guide. Talir's Favor, the Smuggler, you can sack those as well. So really, really good options here. And then Devour, similar, you can sack things for value. One note on Worthy Cause is even if you can't kill an enemy unit with the -1/-1, because you might not have enough units in your void, even just being able to silence it a lot of times can be the difference. If you need to silence a Verret or an Incarnus or a Carvet or something, just being able to silence it even if you don't kill it. And it's a permanent stat reduction too, so even if you give something silence -2/-2, that still a lot of time does the job. Devour, another sacrifice value, draw 2 cards. This is also a fast spell, so of course you can use it in response to your opponent's removal and get a lot of value and basically blank their removal. Nahid's Choice, this is a really big one, so it gives you the option of playing 2 1/1 cultists, which of course you can sacrifice for value, or we'll talk about another interaction with them in a minute, or you can make the enemy player discard a spell or a site of their choice. So in an aggro matchups where you need 1/1s, or if you're on the play, you can get this out for that. Or if you're in a control matchup or the mirror and you want to make sure that you could discard your opponent's Xenan Temple or get rid of their Wrath or their removal spell, you can do that as well. So pretty efficient there. 1 Vara's Favor here, basically serving the same role as Talir's Favored. Devouring Shadow, so 1 of and then Fell Ritual. You've got the 3 removal spells here. This is just your hard point removal spell. You really only need 3 here because you have the 4 Worthy Cause, which is kind of your main removal spell. But sometimes if you don't have one of these or you can't sacrifice a unit, it's nice to just have that kind of hard removal here. Notably, Devouring Shadow also gives permanent stat reduction, so shuts off returning things from the void as well. And then the market. So really important. The market's actually, you use the market quite a bit in this deck. So in Sunny's version, you have an emblem because a lot of your more expensive spells, making sure you get your Incarnus, making sure you get your Xenan Temple. You really don't want to miss power drops with this deck. That's really important. And so having an emblem in the void, especially if you're going for the late game and you need to get up to 8 for Vara or 6 for Carvet, then you really want to be able to hit that emblem from the market there. Edict is one of the less used ones, but it's basically just to take out a pesky unit. If you really need to take out one of the units, you can do that. Arc of Soul, so this one is really important. This has bargain, so if you hit the enemy player with a cultist, you're able to play this straight from the market, which is a very common play. We talked about Nahid's Choice giving you 2 early 1/1s, Nahid's Faithful sometime on turn 1. A very often play is to play out a cheap cultist, attack, hit the enemy player, sack it, and then just ramp yourself. And ramping yourself that early in the game just makes everything in your deck, basically essentially cheaper. And you can sack your things for value, get them back later. Just an incredible. Don't overlook how impactful this is in the game. Being able to just get ahead of your opponent so quickly on power, and actually, the cost not even really being a cost because you sacrifice for value a lot of the times. And then if you combine that also sometimes with High Profit, if you have High Profit out, which also gets pumped if a cultist goes to your void, you have High Profit out, hit with a different cultist, sacrifice it, play Arc of Soul, you're essentially ramping twice for 1 power, which is insane. Carvet, some play Carvet in the main, some play it in the market. The reason that Sunny has it in the market here is that it's actually less good in the mirror. I talked about him setting this up to be a little bit better in the mirror because the Xenan Cultist deck has so much removal. You don't really just want to play one of these naked out on the board with the game on the line and them cards in hand. They're just going to kill it. But against some matchups, it's really important to have, and it's a really good get, especially if there's a stall out or something. And then Vara, in some matchups that are going to go late, the mirror as well. This is kind of the mirror breaker. The first player to be able to get out Vara and start recurring back creatures units is just going to get super, super far ahead. So a lot of games don't go to 8 power, but if they do, then you're able to just really take over the game with that. And then one other thing about Vara, so because you have Shadowlands Guide, what ends up happening is you can play Vara and then it'll trigger, shield trigger, and then the first thing you should usually do if you can and be on the lookout for this is bring back Shadowlands Guide. Even if you have something else better to bring back Shadowlands Guide first, because what'll happen is the unit that Shadowlands Guide brings back from its summon ability will trigger Vara again. So a lot of times you can set up a series where you play Vara, you bring back Shadowlands Guide, which brings back a Slumbering Stone or a Heat's Faithful, which then triggers Vara again, and then you can bring back Incarnus or something else. So you can really go off that turn by doing that. There's a lot of other cute interactions too. Xenan Temple has the passive ability of whenever an enemy unit dies, you steal it and put it into your void. So you're able to take the opponent's creatures, put them in your void, and then you can reanimate those with Vara, which is pretty great too. That actually comes up quite a bit. And then another interesting interaction is Carvet turning your cultists, giving your cultists exalted. This actually happens more often than I would expect, but remember that you have a killer chain, I'll call it, with Carvet, with a exalted. So if you have Carvet out and your cultists have exalted, or if somehow they have exalted from something else, and you can give one of them killer from the Xenan Temple, it actually passes that on. So what you can do is you can set up a chain where you have a cultist out, you give it +1/+1 killer, you kill something with 2 strength, it goes to the void. But then because of exalted, that actually passes the killer on to the next unit. And then if you can put that on a cultist, which also has that, then now it gets killer, and you can kill another unit and then pass it on to another unit. And you can even kill 2, 3, 4 things in a turn, even if you have enough cultists to do that and keep passing the killer on. So that can be a huge turn if you ever set that up. Other than that's it. Like I said, there's a lot of other kind of little intricate things you can see when you start playing it a little bit. And each matchup is a little bit different. But the great thing about this deck is that you're able to adapt your game plan. You have so many tools and can attack from different angles. Some decks fall prey to just the value engine from the sacrificing the Slumbering Stone and then Heat's Faithful and the Shadowlands Guide, bringing it back. And that's just too much value for them to be able to handle. And you'll just win the early game by being able to do that. Some decks lose because you play more of a control deck and you just have all the answers and all your removal, and you can stop all the aggro decks from doing that. But then in the late game, sometimes you win because Incarnus, you just get down an Incarnus or 2, or you get down Vara and there's no answering that. So depending on the matchup, you want to do different things. Against the aggro decks, you want to play more of a control matchup. You want to get the early stage value and you want to use your removal. In the mirror, you really want to land card advantage. So you want to get out Xenan Temple, you want to get out Incarnus, you want to get out Vara, and just win from card advantage there. Also, don't concede too early with this deck because of things like Vara and Incarnus. You can draw really powerful game-changing plays very, very easily. So even if you look behind, I wouldn't concede too early with this deck. Make sure that you're dead before you concede, because a lot of games you can win at 1 health or 2 health or 3 because of these powerful cards. Incarnus can find something that can gain you a lot of health, or find you a Wrath or something that you need. So there's a lot of ways to come back in this deck. So I wouldn't concede too early. Okay, so with that said, let's go in and let's try a game or two. Again, while we're finding a match, so this was the big deck, the winning deck from the ECQ last weekend. There's also the Expedition Challenge in 2 weeks, so that'll be December 3rd, a Tuesday Night Eternal event will be the next one. Okay, so look at this hand. I think this is a keep. We've got 3 power. We've got Nahid's Faithful. We've got Tullia's Favorite, and we've got Shadowlands Guide and a Devour. So we're going to get some value here. We're on the draw. In this hand, I probably won't start out Nahid's Faithful. It depends on the matchup, but I probably won't. I'll probably wait so that I can sacrifice Tullia's Favorite and play this on 3. And then if we need to, we can Devour that if we want. So I'm going to pass turn here, and then I'm going to wait to get the value off of the Tullia's Favorite. And then if we need to, we can sacrifice this for value and get it back with Shadowlands Guide. All right, so if we're playing against Feln, this is actually one of the tougher matchups here. This is one of the newer decks that's become a little popular in the last 2 days because it has an answer to this deck in particular. So if it is the control deck, we're going to want, late game Varas. We're going to want card advantage. We're not going to really be able to aggro out our opponent too early here. Okay, so this turn, what we're going to do is we are going to start out with Nahid's Faithful. We're going to sacrifice that. But then what we have here is we are going to hold up Devour. So if they go for a removal spell, we'll be able to Devour, get it back. Yeah, Permafrost is essentially the same thing. We'll let them Permafrost here. And then we'll Devour this. We'll draw 2 cards off of it, basically blanking their removal spell. And then what we're going to do here is we're going to Shadowlands Guide, and we're going to get the Faithful back again, but we're not going to sacrifice it this time. I want to just have those 2 units there. I'm going to play out the Seat. Eventually we can sack the Emblem here. We can decimate this to get the Deadly, but for now we don't need to. Unfortunately, we can't hold up Devour this turn. I would love to do that, but that'll work here. Not really sure what they're holding up with 5 here, but we'll go ahead and attack and hold up the Devour if they want anything. There you go. So again, we'll get the value from the Devour here. Blank the removal spell, draw 2 cards. Worthy Cause and a High Profit, pretty good there. Now the question is, I don't think we need to Arc of Soul to ramp here. I think we have enough power. So the question is going to be, do we want to play out one of these units, or do we want to Smuggler? Eventually we're going to want a Smuggler for Vara. I think we can wait a little bit on that. I don't think we need that necessarily yet. So actually, I am going to sack, but here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to play Talir's Favored first. Going to get that. Then we're going to Insignia, and then I'm going to sack the Talir's Favored. So you need to hit with a Cultist to play the Arc of Soul, but you don't need to sacrifice a Cultist. So we're going to be able to do that, and we're up to 6 power here, which is nice. Now we are a little threat light, which is a problem. That's definitely going to be a problem here, but this will work. So let's Incarnus here first. See what we get off of here. All right, we've got sack 2 units to play a 7/6 Banewolf. If they're 10 more cards, they're going to avoid playing an additional one. That's interesting. I don't think they have 10. Yeah, they're still at 3. So not quite there. Bloodseeker is not really what we want in this matchup. And the Saw, Lifesteal played Dark Return. We could use this for value. We might take this because if they're able to deal with Incarnus, we can get it back with the Dark Return. So we're going to take that and hold on to it for a little bit. And then right now our Worthy Cause gives something -4/-4. So let's play out the, let's see, which do we have here? Actually, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to play a Time Sigil, and I'm going to pass because I'm going to Smuggler and get Vara, and then we can play Vara at the end of the turn here. All right, so they're going to cut ties here. So I could actually sack this in response here and get the value because of the cut ties, but then I wouldn't be able to get the Vara this turn. So I think I'm going to let that happen, and then I'm just going to get the Vara. Which may be wrong because we're going to have to deal with this Diesel's Office, but I want to get the Vara and get that Incarnus back and get another card off of it. So let's go here, let's Vara, and let's get back the Incarnus and just get some card advantage here. All right, another removal spell. I don't think we need the Lifesteal here. I think I'd rather just get another removal spell. It could be wrong, but we'll just do that. Now, the Dealer's Office is going to get another one here, so we are going to have to figure out a way to deal with this. If they have Malediction, that's going to be a problem. The only thing I'll say, I guess, is that Diesel's Office, while really, really powerful, isn't actually the best ultimate. Like, if they ultimate it, it's not the end of the world. We have removal for Diesel, and we can deal. Hopefully we won't, but if we do, it's not the end of the world. All right, so I'm guessing they're going to get Malediction here, which will kill these 3 units, but keeping Vara alive is pretty good. All right, here we go. So we've got double removal spell here. So if they have removal, we can take care of Diesel's Office. If they have removal spell for Vara, that's not a problem. Plus, we can get it back with the Surgeon Sauce. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to Fel Ritual this first. Then we're going to Devouring Shadow that. Then we are going to attack Diesel's Office. 4 damage, going to take care of the Incarnus. That's totally fine. Gives an argument for attacking first and then using Worthy Cause to blank the removal, but I kind of like what we did here. I am going to Decimate here to get more of a value. And then we'll have to decide if we want... I think I'm going to pass the turn here. I don't think we need another unit out, although I guess I should have played this to trigger Vara again. That is a problem, though. That is definitely a problem. But it's all right. Let's see. Do we have any units? We can bring back the dragon. So I think we want to bring back the dragon this turn for sure. We can't hold on to any current, so we can't hold on to our removal, which is going to be a problem here. But let's do this first. Let's bring back the dragon. And then let's... This Dark Return's not going to work because we can't play our unit. So let's just put this on here. Playing the Dark Return's not going to do anything. So we'll skip it and then just play this out, and there we go. It was a little unfortunate, but our opponent's also at 10, and we've got a pretty decent board, so we're in okay shape here. And there we go. And we took that game. So hopefully you saw some of the value engine there. And then once you're able to get Vara, of course, it's really hard. They basically have to answer Vara right there to be able to do it. So I think we have time for one more. Let's get one more here. So as I said, the next Tuesday Night Eternal event is 2 weeks. It's on December 3rd, Tuesday, December 3rd at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. It's going to be Expedition Challenge, and then the one after that is going to be the special Holiday Invitational, where you're invited if you top 4. Okay, so this one, not as quick of a start, but we do have the Talir's Favor, the Devour, and an Incarnus. So I'm going to keep it. Seems like pretty powerful cards in the hand. We'll have to see what our opponent's on, though. So we're going to go Talir's Favored on 2. We're going to hold Fenrir's Nightshade a little bit, so we can get that value engine later. But hopefully we can get Talir's Favored, and then I don't think it'll die, and we'll be able to devour it again. All right, so another control matchup here. This hand with the Incarnus is pretty well set up, but we also don't have as much of the value chain going here, so we'll have to see. I think, well, that answers that question. So we're going to play the Slumbering Stone. And then we're going to pass turn, and we're going to devour it end of turn for some value here. Okay, there's a Temple Sheehan. That's fine. And that's something we're going to want to kill at some point. But for right now, I think we're fine. We're going to sack this, get our 2/2 flyer and 2 cards, start the value chain going here. Okay, just drew some power. All right, that's a little bit more value. I actually misplayed my power there. That was a mistake. I could have had Incarnus this turn, but I can't because I messed up with the triple influence. So my mistake there. Definitely something I should be doing better, but it's fine. We're going to play Shadowlands Guide, get back the Slumbering Stone here. Get more value here. Now, if they do have Malediction, that messes up pretty good, but we'll get a 2/2 flyer out of the deal, so not a huge deal there. All right, so there's their Incarnus, so that's going to be a problem. We are going to have to defeat that. Incarnus, like I said, one of the more powerful cards in the format, so definitely something we're going to have to deal with. Hopefully we can find a removal spell off of the Incarnus here. Although we probably won't be able, we likely won't be able to play it in the same turn. Well, we can silence it. So this is one of those situations where I think we will silence it. We'll probably sack our Gargoyle to just silence that, even if it's not even if that's all it is. So let's start with playing this out. I don't want to decimate quite yet. Maybe I should, but I don't really want to. We're going to play our Incarnus out first, see what we grab. Spiders is okay. Ooh, Hostile Takeover is pretty good. We'll take Hostile Takeover. We may potentially we might want to just steal the Incarnus. That's a tough decision. So we can steal the Incarnus next turn, or we silence it. Depends how aggressive we want to get here. All right, so we're gonna have some fun. I'm gonna go for the Hostile Takeover play. Hostile Takeover can get a little blown up if your opponent can pump the unit at all. Actually, I probably should have played Arc of Soul there. Wasn't paying attention. So because we hit with the Cultist, we should have sacked the Talier's Favored or the Slumber Stone to get the ramp there. So my mistake on that. Sometimes the deck's a little tough to play with all the intricate things. I was talking and missed the chance there. As I was saying, though, Hostile Takeover, if they have a way to pump the power, it can be a little difficult because they get it back. But we're gonna go fancy here. All right, Sodi's very good. That's going to let them basically draw a card every turn. And now in this case, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to sack the unit that they're killing to actually silence Sodi here so that they don't draw cards. And then I am going to play this out, and I'm going to steal their Incarnus. And then I'm going to attack here. Again, if they have a way to get this back, that would be kind of a bummer. But I think that's a strong enough play to start with, where it kind of puts us a little bit in the driver's seat. And then if we need to, we might be able to get something off of the Smuggler. One thing about this market, though, is because you have so much removal in the main deck, you don't actually have a lot of removal in the market. Which in this scenario, since I used my removal here to get really aggressive, that was a very risky play. Maybe I should have just saved it and silenced the Incarnus, but I think it'll work out okay. Okay, so that's pretty good. So let's think here. So can we get anything from the market to deal with the Carvet? Not really. We can get Vara if we want, but I think what we should do is both of our Incarnuses are at 3. So let's Incarnus first here. See if we can get a cheap removal spell off of this. Solitude. Solitude's not going to do anything. They literally have 0 cards. That's not going to do anything. Death Trap. I don't really want to do that. What does Trigger Happy do? So you got 3/1, Weapon, Deadly. Play Trigger. Actually, so what we can do here, let's take this. And then what we're going to do, I'm actually not going to hold up Smuggler. I'm going to do this. I'm still not going to decimate because I want to save that if we end up Varing. But I'm going to put this on one of the Incarnuses, because what that allows us to do is not only hit for extra damage, but it allows us to hit Mastery right now and invoke again. So that's going to give us a little extra value here. Give another unit unblockable. That might be enough. They're going to gain 4 health here. This also does that, though. Do we want the unit out of it, or do we want the Secret Passage? I'm going to get the unit. That could be wrong, but I'm going to get the unit. So if they have Malediction, we're still in trouble. If they can deal with this, that's okay. So they're going to gain 4 health. They're going to go to 9. But they basically need 2 answers here. In Cold Blood, so they're going to kill this, but then because of the unblockable, they need another, and that should be game, because we're going to give this unblockable and attack for 9. So let's start with this. Give that unblockable, attack for 9, and that'll be it. Okay, so hopefully you got to see a little bit about how that deck functions. If you haven't given it a try, go ahead and try it out. Like I said, I don't think they're making any quick changes for a while, so that'll be a fun little deck to play with. But you'll see it around too, so you'll see if you're playing Expedition, you'll see a lot of people running that. So even if you don't want to play with it, understanding how the deck works so that you can attack it from the opponent angle. Some of the weaknesses, so the Huru Tempo deck, the Huru Aegis deck has a decent matchup. 50-50. I wouldn't say it's a great matchup, but they, with the Aegises, they are able to pump up and get around you. They can fly over what you're doing. They can avoid your removal with the Aegis. So that sometimes is a little tough. If you want to put in a weapon into the market or something to deal with that, you can, but your value still wins a lot of the games against them. So I think it's still favored in the cultist side, but it's a little bit closer. All the other matchups are pretty much heavily favored in the cultist side. Sometimes in the more control matchups, I think they're a little bit closer. Now, we just played 2 control decks and won fairly easily in both. But you can see that if the control decks are able to stop your early game, and then they just save a removal for, your Vara or something, or if they're able to shut off your Void, then it could be a little tough, but you got game in in basically every matchup. I think it's a standalone best deck in the format. So, okay, hopefully you enjoyed that. And next Tuesday Night Eternal, December 3rd, that'll be Expedition. So you want to bring this deck or a similar one to Expedition, that'd be great. Hopefully we'll see you all there. You can go online and register for that. And then 2 weeks after that, on December 17th, will be the Holiday Invitational. So open to anyone who has top 4 at any of the Tuesday Night Eternal events. Yeah, if you like this video, leave some feedback. Go ahead and follow us here on YouTube or check us out at Twitch or any other place that we are all over social media. Hopefully you found this helpful and have a good one. Thanks, everyone.